So, this video's topic is actually a request from a comment made not too long ago. For those who just want to listen and not read, they want me to make a video about the woman who was with Fidel Castro's double during his assassination at the beginning of Black Ops 1. If you don't remember, the scene goes like this. Mason and Woods breach into Castro's bedroom. Mason takes a headshot at Castro's double, and then the woman he used as a human shield shoots at Mason and Woods before being killed. As the commenter pointed out, she has very little screen time, but she's intriguing regardless, and I completely agree, to be honest. The thing is though, I wasn't completely sure how to approach researching a character who's in the game for such a short amount of time, but I had some ideas. I started with the Call of Duty wiki, and eventually I found the page I was looking for, under the name Castro's Mistress. I started reading the page, and I was immediately shocked. In fact, I'll just read this part out. The player can either choose to try and spare her by going for the double's head, or the player can simply shoot through her. I'm sure someone is watching this thinking, well, yeah, duh. And I'm also sure there are those who are just as surprised as I am. I never had any clue that shooting through her was an option. In fact, I have memories of playing this mission as a kid and still headshotting Castro despite my aim being garbage. I always just assumed that the game locked onto his head no matter where your crosshairs were. With this newfound knowledge, I tried to find footage of this sequence, first using that specific search term, to which I found nothing. Determined though, I decided to watch multiple playthroughs of the mission, ranging from walkthroughs with millions of views to obscure footage of people filming their TVs. But still, nothing. Every person headshotted him. I would test it out myself, but I don't have Black Ops 1 on my PC, and considering I make jack shit from this channel, I don't feel like buying it at the moment. Maybe someone in the comments can confirm this is true though. Anyway, what I find most interesting about Castro's Mistress stems from Woods' dialogue after she's killed, which I'll play now.
Crazy bitch! He uses a human shield and she still protects him?
First of all, as a really young kid, I remember watching my brother play this part and thinking to myself, why would Woods call her that? That's such a mean word, but I digress. Now hearing that dialogue, I think Woods actually makes a good point. Why would she protect Castro after he used her as a human shield? Especially when we have the knowledge that the person assassinated in the mission isn't Castro at all, but a double. She could have surrendered and most likely lived through this event, but chose to fight back instead. Well, I think there's a few explanations, and really the biggest factor is whether or not she knew that she wasn't protecting the real Castro. Let's first assume that she knew the guy who got assassinated was a double. Of course, as stated before, she could have easily survived the situation, but it still isn't exactly shocking. Like all of the other soldiers, she probably viewed Woods and Mason as an immediate threat, and despite the fact that it wasn't Castro, they still shot the guy that she had some amount of responsibility to protect. Although, the conspiracy theorist side of me has a different explanation. First of all, there was gunfire from the room before the bedroom, yet Castro's double decided to instead take the Mistress as a human shield, even though there was more than enough time to escape out the back door. In fact, I know there's an escape, because after the breach, more of Castro's men are outside the door, before being shot by Woods. This almost makes me wonder if Castro's double and Mistress were meant to be just as much of sacrifices as every other soldier. Maybe it was even planned for them to both either kill the attackers or die trying. That way the US government is led to believe that they killed the real Castro. I know that I just called myself a conspiracy theorist for this, but it doesn't even feel that far-fetched to believe. The other side of the coin is that the Mistress is just as in the dark as we are, and she thinks she's with the real Castro. If this is the case, then the answer will be pretty simple. Like many dictators, those who support them will support them no matter what they do. This is no exception. Even though he took her as a human shield, the Mistress would rather die than give up her loyalty to Castro. A slight history lesson is that this loyalty wasn't just limited to the game, but the real-life loyalty of Castro as well. Once again, like many dictators, there were those who believed that he was their savior, and others who detested him for the harsh conditions they faced. Now, why am I bringing this up in a Black Ops video? Well, looking for the information on this character reminded me of a specific historical event that I'm not even sure how I learned about. The events went like this. In 1960, the CIA hired one of Castro's former mistresses to assassinate him. He ultimately became aware of the plot and allowed her to kill him with his own gun. She was unable to go through with it, and instead, they had sex. Castro honestly had a lot of women in general, but what I'm wondering is if the Black Ops writers also had this event in their heads when writing Castro's mistress into the game. Honestly though, this is all just speculation. But of course, speculation is all I can really do when the character has about 15 seconds of screen time. Or I guess maybe more, depending on how long you stay in the room. Anyway, despite there not being too much for me to work with, this was surprisingly fun to research and put together. Regardless, I think that's all I've got for this topic. So I know that this video was a little bit different, but I just want to mention that I'm more than okay with considering requests for topics that are left in the comment section. I mean, of course I can't guarantee that it will be made soon after, but sometimes I have difficulty coming up with my own topics consistently, so I just thought I would put that out there. Anyway, I appreciate that we were able to reach 500 subscribers. That's more than I've ever had on a YouTube channel, and I like making these videos a lot. Hope you enjoyed.